Good morning. This is Deepak. It's Monday, Memorial Day. I think the day is May 29th. And I'm continuing our discussions on discoveringyourcosmicself.com. And the questions are coming up from people who are reading this book, You Are the Universe, Discovering Your Cosmic Self and Why It Matters. My co-author is cosmologist, quantum physicist, and climate change expert Menas Kafatos. Dr. Menas Kafatos, physicist originally trained at MIT. And so today's question, which is a question I have answered in a different form before, but I'm happy to answer again, because these questions slowly give us a deeper understanding of the self. So I may say this in many ways for a long time, and each little insight is a little bit of ripening of self-realization or self-understanding. Like a fruit that ripens for a long time, and then one day it suddenly falls. And that ripening of the fruit is total self-realization, which is also in wisdom traditions called enlightenment or freedom or moksha. So let me first frame the question, which comes from Elena. And Elena says, since the universe is made of something you cannot see, nothingness or waves of possibility, why does it look the way it does? How does nothing, the wave reality, also called the quantum reality, become an actuality and appear like everything? Is it because we experience the world from our subjective point of view and we see objects and beings as existing on their own, separate from us, and this disconnects us from oneness, our true identity? So the question is well framed by Elena, and basically it shows that she has a deep understanding of what we are discussing right now. So it's very interesting that when the question came, I happened to find in my bookshelf this book by Amit Goswami, who's a physicist, and it says The Everything Answer Book. And basically in this book he says that quantum possibilities exist in consciousness, and these quantum possibilities collapse every moment into observer and observed, seer and scenery, knower and known. And therefore it's in alignment with the question you have asked. But do remember, quantum possibilities is a human construct, a human word, which is a theoretical construct, as is quantum physics or quantum mechanics. These are human constructs, and any human construct is a good model, but the model itself is in consciousness, okay? The model itself is in consciousness, so no model, whether it's quantum mechanics or any scientific model, can explain the consciousness in which the model is created, because the modeling is also done in consciousness. So science is an activity in consciousness based on certain methodologies, theoretical constructs, experiments, and observations, all made in consciousness itself. So let's forget about quantum physics right now and just try and understand through our own experience, okay? So when we look around, and I'm looking around in my own room right now, what do I experience? I experience this book, I experience the bookshelf behind me, I experience my body, I experience this t-shirt which says Spiritual Gangster, I experience the computer and I experience this handheld device through which I'm speaking to all of you. What else am I experiencing? I'm also experiencing my own thoughts, which are helping me to articulate an answer to your question. What else am I experiencing? I'm experiencing your reactions that are coming to me in the form of symbols on the screen of my handheld device, which is now on a tripod. Okay, so all this experience is happening. This, that, this, all this happening. Where is this experience happening? For lack of a better word, it's happening in awareness. Awareness is the knowing element in every experience. Awareness is what makes experience possible. To be aware is to know and have experience. Now, when we look at all these diverse objects, this, the bookshelf, everything I pointed out, even this body, they look separate. Now, they look separate, but they're not. The stool I'm sitting on, the iPhone in front of me, the book in my hand, this body, the bookshelf, the sound of my voice, they're all the same entity. And that same entity is formless. It has no form. It's called awareness. And that same entity, which is called awareness, in order to become aware of something, because that's all there is, consciousness, awareness, in order to be conscious of something, it first has to be conscious of itself. So consciousness becomes conscious by becoming conscious of itself. Awareness becomes aware by becoming aware of itself. And in so doing, it becomes the experience of all this. This body, this mind supposedly somewhere here, the brain inside, these spectacles, this, the bookshelf. Awareness becomes the seer, the process of seeing, and the scenery, all three. Awareness becomes the knower, the process of knowing, and that which is known, all three. Now that which is known, we usually refer to it as a material object. This, that. But matter itself is the interpretation of perceptual experience. Okay, so what is consciousness doing? It is becoming aware of itself and modifying itself as seeing, as hearing, as tasting, as smelling, as touching, as thinking, as feeling. And in so doing, it is experiencing infinite diversity, because right now what we're experiencing is a human experience, and the human experience is a particular kind of species experience, different from that of a bat or an eagle or a worm or a nematode or a bacterium or whatever. And even those entities are actually names given to forms that we experience in our own self. Okay, so the formless is becoming the experience of form through its own self-interaction. Okay, the formless is appearing as form through its own self-interaction. Now, of course, when I use words, then, we lose some kind of taste of the experience itself. Can you experience everything around you, including your body, as one formless entity experiencing as this diversity. In other words, can you experience everything without the filter of the ego separate self? The ego separate self is giving rise to the dream that we call reality, everyday reality. It's a dream. And the ego self is, the separate self is part of the dream. When the separate self completely falls away, when there is no separate self as an experience whatsoever, that would be enlightenment, going beyond the egoic self and understanding that the real you is formless, invisible, uncreated, intangible, birthless, deathless, and appearing as all this, appearing as this. So, including the person, which is a process, is part of the dream. So, in the beginning, it's kind of getting like awakening is getting unhinged totally, having no anchor. It might even be scary. But as you settle into being, then it becomes joyful, it becomes effortless, it becomes spontaneous, it becomes selfless, and it is the exuberance and exaltation of what we call spirit. Now, you know, when somebody says, I am awakened, you have to be a little careful, because who's the I that says I'm awakened? Can you have an ego self and still be awake? And this is what somebody called Adyashanti, who I've begun to admire recently as a teacher, because I only became aware of him in recent times. He said it's a delicate thing, you know, to have an ego self saying, I am enlightened. Can you be enlightened and still speak from a depth of being where the ego self does not interfere? Can you have that experience of extreme humility and understanding and still not identify with the ego self and say, I am enlightened? That's a kind of a delicate balance. But, you know, having seen some of Adyashanti's videos on YouTube and also read some of his books, I feel he's coming from a very authentic place, okay, of awakened self. And I am discovering that a lot of people are actually in that awakened state where we have access to memory, but we're not victimized by memory, where we have access to emotions, but in a much bigger, impersonal way, where the love is love radiating from you, from like light from a bonfire, focused on none and denied to none, where compassion becomes natural, where there is effortless spontaneity and evolution, where there is a fundamental muted joy and all of that. So that is happening in the world. And even though I'm using words right now to express it, it's really a wordless knowing that all form and phenomena are basically the formless experiencing itself. That there is no such thing as form. When you look at form, you see it's a phenomenon. And when you see the phenomenon, it's the self interacting with itself in a constant arising and subsiding of perceptual and cognitive experiences. So language is difficult. It creates difficulty in understanding, and yet we have to use it in order to communicate with each other. So I thought today maybe what I can do I can read a poem from you, from Tagore, and two poems I thought from Tagore, who was a great teacher for me, a mentor. I never met him. I read him as a child. And Tagore is a seer and a poet and a sage all at the same time. So here is what he says in one of his poems. He says, "When I go from hence, let this be my parting word, that what I have seen is unsurpassable. I have tasted of the hidden honey of this lotus that expands on the ocean of light, and so I am blessed. Let this be my parting word. In this playhouse of infinite forms, I have had my play, and here I have caught sight of the divine that is formless. My whole body and my limbs have thrilled with his touch, who is beyond touch. And if the end comes here, let it come. Let this be my parting word." Isn't this beautiful? Isn't this beautiful? Here's another poem of Tagore where he says, "You are the sky and you are the nest as well. Oh, beautiful one, there in the nest, it is your love that encloses the soul with colors and sounds and odors. There comes the morning with the golden basket in her right hand, bearing the wreath of beauty silently to crown the earth. And there comes the evening over the lonely meadows, deserted by herds through trackless paths, carrying cool draughts of peace in her golden pitcher from the western ocean of rest. But there, where spreads the infinite sky for the soul to take her flight in, reigns the stainless white radiance. There is no day nor night, no form, no color, and never, never a word. There is no day nor night, no form nor color, and never, never a word. Be still, my heart, and know the truth." I think Coleman Barks also translated Rumi by saying, "You are that freshness, that which was never born, and I'm with you now. You are that freshness that was never born, and I'm with you now." So, take some time to be silent and be still, and let the universe unfold in its beauty, because it is yourself that is unfolding as the experience of the universe. And that's why, again, the book is called You Are the Universe. Whether you read it or not, it's fine. We are engaging in discussions here, and that's enough. Lots of love from me to you, and we'll connect tomorrow. Thank you.